Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Ketubot page 90, which tells us that in order to be able to collect something called Ketubot bin Dichrin, it's necessary that additional monies must be around to divide. In the event that a man has two wives, and now the man has died, but he did not have time to pay off the Ketubot, and now you have the two wives who have died. Now their children are interested in collecting the Ketubot and what's ever written in the Ketubot, and in addition to that, for them to be able to inherit whatever is left over. Now part of the Ketubot is something which is called Ketubot bin Dichrin, which we've discussed before, that because a man can be married to multiple women, so the concern of one of these wives is that the father of that wife will not want to give his daughter any money when they get married because there's possibly other children from another wife who's not related, because they're not his grandchildren. And therefore, they'll write into the Ketubot that the monies that are being given will not be able to be given over to the other children, but only to this man's grandchildren. And this way, it'll cause an incentive for the father to want to give a daughter money at the time of a wedding. Now, at the time that they have died, these children are interested in collecting this Ketubot bin Dichrin. But this is a rabbinical enactment, as we said before, in order to be able to get women to wish to get married, and also to encourage the fathers to be able to contribute to their daughter's wedding and also their marriage thereafter. Now, when it comes to inheritance, that is actually a biblical law. That is something which is found in the Torah itself. And therefore we find over here that in the event that you only have enough money for what's called the Ketubot bin Dichrin, so in that situation, we will not have them collected at all. And the reason is because if by doing this rabbinical law of giving this money to these children will cause that there's no other money left, there'll be no biblical inheritance. So what ends up happening is a rabbinical law causes a biblical law to not exist. And that's not something which can take place. And therefore the Talmud says that after those initial monies would have been distributed, called the Ketubot bin Dichrin, there has to be at least a moser dinner. There has to be at least a minimal amount of money so that it can be split up among the two different parties, in order that there will be an element of a biblical concept of inheritance. So this seems a bit complex, but it's teaching us a fundamental concept. And that is that when it comes to something, even though it may be important, but it is, in this case, rabbinic, which is not as significant and strong as a Torah law, one cannot take a rabbinical law so strong and to make sure that it's done, and it'll end up causing biblical laws not to take place. And that's the same thing in our lives. If we could possibly compare it to a person that decides to focus on the insignificant small things, that they consume their time with things which are really quite wasteful, and when itself may not be such a big deal. But if it ends up taking away from things which are important, something in which is a real priority, or it should be a priority, that's where it becomes an issue. If a person is so distracted by the things which are insignificant or not as significant as bigger picture things, bigger priorities, then in fact, just like here, one has to push away those insignificant things to make sure that they know where their priorities are.